Hello you beautiful tea minds. It's a beautiful day out. We've visited the Mandokoro tea gardens today just for fun, and we are doing a camping trip. So if you look over here, we've got the setup. I've got my hammock set up. And in the back is the tent where my family will be sleeping. So this is the hammock setup. And this is the big tent. So this is our camp setup for the night. And now the next thing that we're gonna have to do is to make a fire. But I really love camping and being out in the outdoors and just enjoying this kind of nature lifestyle, not being worried about anything that happens in regular everyday life. So just being out in nature, connecting with the earth, with soil, with everything, and finding that connection with just the peacefulness and the quietness of existence again. That is really what I love about just being out in nature. Camping, doing some bushcrafting, trying to set up different camp styles. I'm just experimenting with this hammock setup. That's the first time that I'm going to be sleeping in this hammock setup, and I'm actually really looking forward to it. It's very comfortable, but I've never set it up before, so this was a first, and I'm really excited about it. So what do you do in a camping setting when you're set up with your tents and everything? Then the next thing to do is to make a fire, and I'll show you how I make a fire. Really what you want for a fire is you first need some tinder bundle, something that's very flammable. Then you would want some kindling, which is usually smaller pieces of quickly flammable wood. And then you would need some fuel, which is usually something like this, like these heavier logs. I don't really have a tinder bundle. I do have some very flammable, very dry wood over here. And what I'm going to do for the ignition, what is really helpful and what I like to use, is I'm going to make a feather stick. For making the feather stick, what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to create small curls on this piece of wood. I don't want to cut too deep, and I don't want to make them too large. I basically want to make a lot of these feathers. And what you want to do is when you make a cut, you make a new flat surface every time. And you don't want to cut on the same flat surface again. You want to take the next corner. Each time you make a surface, you're going to make a corner on each side. So you want to slightly twist the place where you are cutting. So this is my feather stick. This is the first ignition that I'm going to use, and it's very easy. When you've got flammable wood like this, you just use a lighter on it and you light it on fire, and you're good to go. You just put it in there, and the rest will just go up in flames, and you've got your fire started. Now before I just use a lighter, I just want to try something else and see if that also works with this feather stick. I've got Flint and steel, and I made myself some char cloth. This char cloth I'm going to try to ignite, see if I can get a spark. Once I have a little ember on the char cloth, I'm going to put it on here and see if I can ignite it into a fire. If not, I'll have to use a lighter. Alright, flint and steel. Let's see if we can get a spark going. There we've got it, immediately after the first hit or spark. I'm going to put this on here. And see if I can ignite my feather stick. That did not seem to be enough. It was a good first strike, a good ember, but it seemed that my wood was not catchy enough. How about we give it another try? So really making a fire is something that is as essential as just breathing. Knowing how to make a fire is so important, and And it relates to tea ceremony as well, because you want to know how to make a fire because you need fire to burn the charcoal to create your water. And so each time we dig into something, dig into making a bowl of tea, what is necessary for it, we need water for it. So how do we boil the water? How do you make the charcoal to boil the water? Where does that charcoal come from? How do we make the fire? And so we basically always come back to the same natural essence, the essence of life itself. And just being out in the wild and trying to figure out how this mechanism works, how the fire works, how to do it primitive style. Those are things that are just so enjoyable and make tea ceremony also so much more fun when you get to do this. So here we go. It really seems it is not quite enough to do that with these feather sticks. Alright, I'm gonna give this one last try and then I'm just gonna use the lighter. Now usually you would have something more like that's similar to a bird's nest. You have it from the inner bark of a tree, or something that's just very flammable, like some straw, these kinds of things. That's where you would put your charcoal ember in, and then you blow in it to make the fire go. Now these are still a bit hard and they're quite rough too, so I don't know how very great these are going to be. So last try. And we have ourselves a flame. Look at that. And I'm gonna put that flame in here, and I'm gonna use it to start these other pieces. And then gradually I'm gonna start fueling the fire. So we made ourselves a feather stick, used flint and steel to get an ember, to make a flame on our feather stick, and to get our fire going. So this is a successful start of our camping trip in Mandokoro. Good morning. It was a beautiful night. It wasn't too cold. I was of course dressed very warmly to sleep comfortably in my my hammock. It was the first time that I did hammock camping, and I really enjoyed it. It was great. I was a bit wary about whether or not I was going to be able to sleep, if I was going to get some pains in the back and this and that, but actually it worked out pretty fine, and I was able to lay quite flat using the hammock in somewhat a sideways way, and yeah, it was amazing. It was a great night. I didn't expect I would sleep this well. Camping to me is really just a way to be able to connect back to the essence, to connect back to the hand that feeds us, to connect back to where we gain our life energy from. And that is the earth, the soil. Everything that grows is grown upon the soil, and it's really important for me to take these moments to connect back, to be subjected to the elements. We're often locked up in our houses and we're cut off from the elements. We can change the temperature inside, we can if it rains we're dry, we can basically choose whichever environmental climate that we are in when we're in our houses. But that is just not the case when you're outside. And so because we're so disconnected, and it's important to at least at a few times just take disconnection back and put yourself out there and put yourself in connection with the outdoors. And if it's cold, it's cold. It's nothing that you're going to change about it, other than what are the steps that you are going to take to make yourself feel warm or make yourself feel comfortable. You try to work with it, and that's the ingenuity of camping, of hiking, of bushcrafting, of being out in the outdoors. That's really the ingenuity. Is there is this situation, what do I do about it to make it comfortable? And that's just such a beautiful and powerful thing to do. So feel really good. It's just a little past 6 in the morning. I'm going to start doing some morning activities, some morning rituals that I always do, and we'll get started with the day and just have another enjoyable, relaxing day today. So we're back from the river. I do it for myself, so it's just a great moment to invigorate and revitalize. And now it's time for some tea. And I've got my camp teapot. It's an old bronze teapot, and I've used some camp cord, some paracord to wrap the handle, because usually it's wrapped with straw or bamboo. And I've also put a cord around the lid to keep the lid in place. And I've got a carabiner on it, so I can actually hang it, and it has a double function. If you hang it on your backpack, it also becomes a bear bell. But it's a great teapot because you don't have to worry about breaking it or not. This one can take a beating. Time for a matcha moment. I've got my matcha bowls. Tea scoop, 2 tea bowls in a nested set, and then I also have my tea whisk container, and it usually doesn't come with it, but there are these very useful wooden tea whisk shapers, kusenaoshi, and I like to use that to keep my whisk in shape, because otherwise the tines in this get sort of squashed together. So, time for a revitalizing morning matcha. I'm going to enjoy this tea. Let me know in the comments how you connect to nature, how you connect to the hand that feeds you, how you connect to the soil beneath our feet. And if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments. Also, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so that you get notified of new updates. So, cheers to the morning.